Now on Mississippi Insight, Democrats score upsets in Mississippi and nationwide in the first key election since President Trump's re-election. We'll hear from some of Tuesday's winners. How will delays in SNAP food benefits impact our nation's health and well-being? A panel of experts will break it down for us. And 12 News' Cameron Smith takes a close look at Mississippi's ailing public retirement system. That's all ahead this week on Mississippi Insight. I'm Byron Brown. Thank you for joining us for this November 9th edition of Insight. For the first time in 13 years, Republicans no longer hold a supermajority in the Mississippi Senate. Democrats picked up 2 more seats in Tuesday's special elections, flipping districts 2 and 45. Teresa Isom won in North Mississippi with 63% of the vote, and former Hattiesburg Mayor Johnny Dupree claimed 71% in his race. Senator Reginald Jackson also won re-election in District 11 with 67%. Minority Leader Derek Simmons called the results a, quote, victory for representing our communities, end quote. The wins follow a federal court ruling that found the state's old Senate map violated the Voting Rights Act, forcing new district lines. Democrats now hold 18 of 52 seats in the Senate, ending the GOP's 2/3 control at the state capitol. But District 26, John Horn's Senate seat, before he became Jackson's mayor, will remain vacant, pending a runoff between Letitia Johnson and the frontrunner, Kamisha Mumford.
I am ready to move forward, get back out with the voters, canvass, knock on doors, make phone calls, and just really get our message out to the citizens of Senate District 26.
It'll be 4 weeks of hard work, but I'm ready for it. I think it's what I've been doing this whole time, is talking to voters, getting out in the community, finding out what people want and where they want this state to go.
12 News' Brandon Raines picks up our team coverage with Senate races in 2 regional districts in the Pine Belt.
Voters in Forest, Lamar, and Perry counties are deciding who will represent them in Mississippi's newly drawn District 44 Senate race. Current District 45 Senator Chris Johnson is facing Hattiesburg family attorney Shakita Taylor. Johnson says he's proud of his legislative record and hopes to keep building on that if elected to the new district.
I've been able to pass legislation that has been requested by local leaders, bring home financial resources to help with wastewater, drainage, roads, infrastructure. The Eagle One mega site, I've been able to bring home a significant amount of money, especially to help us with federal matches.
Taylor, meanwhile, is focused on keeping vape shops away from schools, improving mental health services, and boosting funding for public education.
The biggest issue has to do with what's been called school choice, which is not a school choice issue. Parents should choose where they want their kids to go. That is their right. However, I do not agree with using public money for private school vouchers. And so right now in Mississippi, that's an issue that is before Congress. That's an issue that we're going to have to make a decision on.
In the greater Hattiesburg area, voters in Forest and Lamar counties are deciding who will represent District 45 in the state Senate. Former Hattiesburg Mayor Johnny Dupree is facing local attorney Anna Rush for that seat. Dupree is campaigning on increasing the minimum wage, expanding health care access, and eliminating the state's grocery tax.
I am supporting Mr. Dupree because he is an active listener to the voters and he cares about community and he is a family man.
Rush, on the other hand, says she wants to focus on improving local schools and growing jobs and businesses across her district.
She's seen all levels of society that come through. For family law practice, you see it all. And she has sympathy for everybody and she works hard for them.
Also happening in Forest County, a special election for the Circuit Court judge seat is underway, with appointed Judge Wes Curry facing off against Tangi Carter.
Mississippi Senate Democrats celebrated their efforts to gain 2 more seats.
The momentum that you saw last night was about the power that we have in representing our communities.
Senator Reginald Jackson was reelected to District 11 with 67% of the vote.
I'm glad that the people of the 11th District felt the need to elect me and send me back to Jackson to continue doing what we've done.
U.S. District Judge Sherry Ann Aycock ruled in August that the previous district map violated the Voting Rights Act and could no longer be used, leading to Democrats gaining a seat in the House as well.
The victory that we are celebrating today is certainly a direct result of the federal courts here in Mississippi ruling that the district lines needed to be redrawn.
Senator Daniel Sparks says he's not in favor of the districts being drawn by the courts.
That's not something that I prefer. I believe the legislature should have the job of doing that. It obviously changes the dynamic when you look at voting populations and districts that you run in.
Sparks says Republicans plan to work with all new members to keep Mississippi moving forward. At the state capitol, Cameron Smith, 12 News.
I don't think it was good for Republicans.
He wasn't on the ballot, and Wednesday morning from the White House, President Donald Trump reacted to Tuesday night's election and wins for Democrats.
We had an interesting evening, and we learned a lot.
In California, voters overwhelmingly voted to redraw the state's congressional lines. Governor Gavin Newsom says it's a check on President Trump.
No crowns, no thrones, no kings.
In Virginia and New Jersey, Democrats Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill won the governor's races. Spanberger is the first woman elected governor in Virginia's history.
Adam said to our daughters, "Your mom's going to be the governor of Virginia." I can guarantee those words have never been spoken in Virginia ever before.
And Democrat Jay Jones will be Virginia's first black attorney general. He was forced to apologize after text messages surfaced weeks before Election Day, where he talked about the murder of political opponents. In New York City, Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani won over 50% of the vote in the mayor's race, defeating former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. While Mamdani was speaking, President Trump wrote, "And so it begins."
New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change.
Straight ahead, delays on SNAP benefits could mean real health chaos for hundreds of thousands of families. We'll get a sense of the scale of the issue when Mississippi Insight continues. Roughly 350,000 Mississippians are among the millions of Americans who count on SNAP benefits. But the federal delay in November payments has families and food banks bracing for hard choices as the holidays approach. Judges have ordered the White House to get the money into SNAP accounts. But even short disruptions in SNAP distributions can lead to higher food insecurity and greater strain on local pantries. The nonprofit news group Sideline hosted this briefing by 3 researchers who study food access and nutrition on what these delays could mean for health and hunger.
It's really pretty well balanced between, this came up earlier this week, Democratic and Republican congressional districts. It's pretty well balanced between urban and rural. It's really, low-income populations live everywhere in the United States, and this program serves them.
I love SNAP. SNAP is just a fantastic program. And I don't say that about all government programs. Some are good, some are bad. But for the reasons Diane just succinctly described and excellently described, SNAP is an incredible program in terms of it really reaches those who are most in need. Basically, once you have studies which properly control for what's called non-random selection into the program, is that SNAP recipients are between 20 to 30% less likely to be food insecure than eligible non-participants. This is an astounding success story. If we want to talk about a success story in the United States, let's talk about SNAP. So once you control for this, what's called non-random selection into the program, and you also control for measurement, error, and reporting, and this has been done with many nationally representative data sets to look at this, is once we control for all these different factors, is we find the SNAP recipients are about 20 to 30% less likely to be food insecure than eligible non-recipients. In terms of limitations, there's always limitations with these analyses. You have to think about, are the methods, underlying methods, were convincing? Is the data what we would expect for this? I guess I would say is there's really a robust literature on this. So I feel really confident saying that this is 20 to 30% less likely to be food insecure than eligible non-participants.
Every state deals with SNAP a little bit differently. It has minimum guidelines that every state has to follow, but if you want to go above and beyond, you can do that. In states like mine, North Carolina, we have not really done anything in addition to what's required. So in states like mine and other states, it can be very stigmatizing for individuals to even try to fill out an application. An application is an issue because either you have to print it out and fill it out. And I've even had students where an example we do is we actually fill out the application and see how long it takes and do they actually know the answers to the questions. So if I'm working with graduate students that can't fill out a SNAP application, I think that's a little concerning. The other really important point that we should be aware of is that oftentimes SNAP recipients have to go back to their Department of Social Services, whoever administers their SNAP program on a regular basis. So in North Carolina, you have to go back every 6 months. You have to meet with a caseworker. They have to go over all of your income information, every type of asset. As again, Diane spoke to, there's asset tests. And I think what I have heard through a lot of interviews and focus groups that I do is trying to find time out of your day to go to a Department of Social Services that may or may not be close to you because you need to go to the one that's probably in your county. That can be a very long drive. We talked about rural areas earlier. So again, trying to drive there, trying to take off work, trying to sit and wait, and then again, being interviewed time and time again and proving that you're deserving of SNAP. And I think that can be a really big hurdle. I'll just say, just in general, we have tried, especially I think everywhere in the country, we have, different cultures, different communities. In the South and the Southeast, and in particular, we have a lot of pride. So a lot of people, when they need help, they will not seek it. I've literally had older adults tell me that they would rather starve than go ask the federal government for a handout.
So many families on SNAP live really paycheck to paycheck, or even some live hand to mouth. So the delays that we're seeing and the reduction in benefit levels, I think will absolutely end up in hunger in some cases. I think other families will find other ways to make ends meet. But, by giving advice to a reporter, I would say, go to grocery stores, go to food banks and talk to people and ask them some of those questions.
I want to emphasize some groups that we should be paying particularly attention to. First, those with mental health disabilities. This is a time of grave crisis for them. It's always oftentimes a time of grave crisis, but when you have these interruptions, it can be especially disruptive to them. They may be really struggling right now with this loss in SNAP benefits. They already have much, much higher rates of food insecurity than the general population. So I think we should really be thinking about those with mental health challenges. A second group is we have an epidemic of loneliness in our society. Okay. And I always talk about this in the context of food insecurity. In a time like this is especially problematic for those who are lonely and don't have others to rely upon. As Diane mentioned, and as Lindsay talked about in her presentation, a lot of people can rely on family and communities, but for those who are lonely, oftentimes that's really a challenge. So if I was a reporter, I would concentrate on those with mental health challenges and the challenges they face, and for those who are lonely and without social.
I worry about the children that are enrolled in the program and are not getting benefits because right now their parents, caregivers, whoever they're living with are having to make really hard decisions. I think it's important to note for reporters that children who are food insecure, they're more likely to miss school due to illnesses. They have lower educational attainment. They have a lot worse test scores. And essentially, because we know educational attainment is correlated with how much you make, that means they probably enter the workforce and they're making lower paying jobs. And essentially, you get back into just a cycle of you can't get out of poverty or being in a low income family or community. So I think this, at the end of the day, it's a roller coaster ride that we need to help people get off, and we don't need to let it keep going.
And I really would encourage people to think a lot more about those with mental health challenges, those with suffering from loneliness, those suffering from addictions, and those who are recently incarcerated. I think we really need to think about those, our brothers and sisters who are most vulnerable amongst us. And that's what I encourage reporters to think about currently, but also come back to all of us 12 months, 2 years from now, and talk about this again. One of the great things about SNAP that I love about SNAP is that it respects the dignity and the autonomy of individuals. It respects the dignity. I can shop along the same aisles as I did before I got SNAP and after I get SNAP in the same ways that my friends, family, and neighbors can do so. It also respects the autonomy of recipients. It says to them, we think you can make the best choices for the family. We don't want somebody else. I don't need somebody else to tell a single mother with her children what she should be and should not be eating. My God, it's the presumption. And so therefore, as you may guess, I'm vehemently against these restrictions on SNAP. It takes away the dignity and the autonomy of recipients by saying, we're going to have a bunch of people say what you can and can't eat. And it's been kind of ironic, not ironic, but it's an interesting thing, is that it used to be, it was mainly blue states that were pushing for this. And a lot of public people in the public health and nutrition were saying, we got to restrict what people eat. And now it's the MAHA movement that said, we got to restrict what people eat. Both are wrong. Both sides are wrong on this, is that we really need to respect the dignity of autonomy. And I'm also, part of the reason I'm so vehemently against this is I'm not a slippery slope guy, but this is a slippery slope. I mean, if you're going to start banning sugar sweetened beverages, might as well ban orange juice. I mean, orange juice is about as healthy as some sugar sweetened beverages, or candy. If you're going to ban candy from being purchased, why not buying Cliff bars? Why not ban granola bars? Why not ban cereal? I mean, you don't want to go down this path. So instead, let us go back and respect the dignity and autonomy of our most vulnerable in our society, and avoid being patronizing, insulting, and mean to those who are most vulnerable in our society. It's hard enough being poor, as you know, as Lindsay's been telling all these stories today. It's hard enough being poor in the United States, much less having somebody dictate what you can and can't purchase. Sorry about that. This is something I feel strongly about.
No, I'll say I've never heard in an interview, I really want to buy unhealthy food and feed it to my kids. It's literally, I'm buying what I can afford, what's going to last. And also with carbonated beverages, I hope people remember this. People sometimes drink carbonated beverages to feel full because they can't eat food, because they can't afford the food. So my 99-cent drink of soda or pop or Coke, wherever you are in the country right now, just quote me what's ever appropriate for your region and however you want to refer to sugar sweetened beverages. But this is not a problem of people not wanting healthy food. It's about healthy food's affordable, and it's not always non-perishable.
I think it really is the importance of SNAP to people and to the economy. It's an efficient and it's an effective program, and it helps many families put food on the table.
You're watching Mississippi Insight only on 12 News. Mississippi's public employees retirement system is deep in debt, about $26 billion. State leaders say the shortfall stems from lawmakers' decisions made decades ago in the late 80s. 12 News political reporter Cameron Smith spoke with officials about how the state's retirement system fell so far behind.
There are over 368,000 members in the state's public employees retirement system, which includes current employees, retirees, and employees who used to work in the PERS system but haven't retired yet.
That's roughly 10% of the state's population that we touch directly, not even counting family members.
Of those, more than 267,000 employees currently work or receive retirement benefits. Basically, the PERS system covers all non-government positions in the state. Some of the jobs include teachers, police officers, firefighters, social workers, and sanitation workers.
Even if you're not a member of PERS, if you're a citizen of Mississippi, your everyday life is affected significantly by a PERS member.
The PERS latest data shows in June 2024 that more than 120,000 were receiving retirement benefits. That year alone, PERS paid out $3.2 billion in total retirement benefits. How do you think that we got to this point?
In the late 90s and early 2000s, there were some additional benefits placed into law without additional funding at the time. Also, in the two subsequent decades, we had a declining active to retiree ratio, meaning there were fewer active PERS covered members paying into the system and more retirees coming onto the system and retirees living longer.
Senator Daniel Sparks explains the legislature promising benefits without funding tracks back to the 80s.
Partly because we had low-paid state employees over the years. I'm sure that was the legislature of the late 80s thought that was the thing to do. Then into the 90s, we added the 3% compounded COLA in 99, which again was not funded.
But it doesn't stop in the 90s.
Then we went into the dot-com bubble. We, in 08, had the financial crisis. These are the things that pushed us into the large liability position.
Governor Reeves is also critical of decisions made by the PERS board.
I think the board has made a mistake.
Over the last decade, by lowering the assumed rate of return from 8% down to 7%.
That contributes about a third of the unfunded liability, almost $8 billion, just simply because they changed the way in which they view potential returns.
According to PERS, the money for these investments comes from employees paying 9% of their compensation and the employer paying over 18%.
We take those funds, invest them over the years and the decades so that we can provide for their retirement in the future once they reach retirement age.
And now, lawmakers are having to figure out how to stop the debt from climbing.
Anytime you give a benefit and you don't pay for it today, it's like buying it on the credit card. You're eventually going to have to pay the bill. And those decisions in the 90s have left us a large bill in 2026.
And we'll be back next weekend with more of the political and current affairs coverage that you demand. I'm Byron Brown from all of us here at 12 News. Make it a great weekend.